Women's football. Throughout history, it has gone through many trials and tribulations to get to where it is today. Many nations had banned women partaking in football throughout history, citing it as a man's sport. However, in the last 25 years, the global interest in football has grown incrementally, where millions of viewers have tuned into World Cups and Olympic Games to see what it has to offer the general population. In the last couple of decades, players have advocated for recognition and respect in their field, with the likes of Megan Rapinoe becoming the voice of young women in the United States and across the world, pushing for fair pay and treatment by football governing bodies and organisations. This saw the US women's national team become a powerhouse in international football, winning the World Cup in 2015 and 2019, while also being runners-up in 2011. Just like the rest of the world, England have suffered the same stereotypes around the women's game, with teams being banned from playing on pitches for 50 years in 1921 because the, quote, council felt impelled to express a strong opinion that the game of football is quite unsuitable for females and should not be encouraged, end quote. Now, there's been a lot of good happening in the game. Participation is at an all-time high and continues to grow. Crowds are selling out stadiums such as the Emirates and the Metropolitano on a weekly basis, showing how the sport has grown. Transfer fees have also shot up as clubs recognise the value of buying top players to achieve success. This summer alone saw the likes of Kundananji and Banda move to the NWSL, while Chelsea spent big on Maya Ramirez from Levante. Kira Walsh in the summer of 2022 was a key turning point in this regard, moving from Man City to Barcelona for a record £400,000. Even with so many milestones being made and broken every week, there are still issues surrounding the women's game and how it is viewed among some people. This video will go over 3 key areas that, in my opinion, still lag behind their male counterparts. Mirroring the men's game, the frequency of matches have gone up in recent years, as the demand for more games both domestically and internationally continue to rise. Not only is it the frequency of matches, but it's also the stakes and the intensity of such games. Clubs such as Chelsea, Wolfsburg, Lyon, Barcelona, Arsenal, Bayern Munich, and many others are regularly challenging at the top of domestic and European competitions and are expected to go far in these competitions. On top of international commitments, top players are expected to play more matches across the season, often not getting an extended break. The lack of recovery time, coupled with continued stress on the body, can lead to heightened risk of suffering injuries, especially muscle and ligament injury. There were massive injury concerns in the summer of 2023 prior to the World Cup, as many players felt like they had insufficient recovery time going from their domestic season to tournament prep. One injury that has been extremely present in women's football has been ACL injuries. The anterior cruciate ligament connects the femur to the tibia, but when it comes to football, it is the main stabilizer of the knee joint, allowing the knee to twist and turn. Being able to twist and turn is therefore vital for these professional footballers, as it enables athletes to turn quickly at high intensity. The ACL can rupture and tear when too much force has been put on the ligament, which leads to a long period of absence from the pitch. ACL injuries can take a minimum of 6 months to heal, but then athletes must endure a long rehab process to ensure no complications from the issue. In the previous 3 years, we have seen some of the biggest stars miss out on major tournaments due to this. 2021 and 22 Ballon d'Or and Barcelona star Alexia Putellas suffered an ACL injury in training on July 5th, the night before Euro 22 commenced. She was out until April 2023, and although she got called into the World Cup squad with Spain, she did not look her best self, being subbed out of every game she started. Arsenal have also had multiple first-team players go down with ACL injuries in the past 2 years, including England stars Leah Williamson and Beth Mead, Dutch star Vivianne Miedema, and Academy starlet Tia Goldie. Williamson, Mead and Miedema missed the World Cup for their nations, and with England making it to the final, what could the outcome have been if Serena Wiegman had them in her squad? Even this season, Chelsea have had Eva Fischl and Sam Kerr go down with ACLs in the space of a month. There are so many examples, but the question is, why? One key problem has been the severe lack of research. Our understanding of human anatomy has been formed through examinations of males, with females only being examined more in the last 40 odd years. When it comes to injury evaluation and prevention, a lot of data comes from male subjects. While research is varied, data indicates that women are 2 to 6 times more likely to experience an ACL injury compared to their male counterparts. One factor is the severe lack of understanding by medical professionals on female plyometrics, which is how women move and perform actions. Another is the lack of specialized equipment. While this issue has improved over the last 5 years, many brands still offer very limited options for female athletes, from boots, jerseys, shorts, and gloves designed for male athletes. While these are only small details, this will still take attention away from performing optimally, and when someone is not completely focused on their current task, it could lead to accidents happening. There are changes occurring for the better though. FIFA Pro, PFA, England, Nike, and Leeds Beckett University are working in a joint effort on Project ACL, where they'll conduct a 3-year data collection process on the women's game around ACL injuries. Their key objective is to change the narrative around ACL injuries in women's football, specifying practices for women where they hope to develop guiding principles on ACL reduction, form a minimum standards framework, and create a unique data set in the FAWSL. This process will take time to create data and develop new practices, but these governing bodies at FIFA and other confederations should take inspiration from this and begin implementing similar programs to allow the best players to play on, thus providing us with a better spectacle that we have grown to see over the last decade. Anxiety and depression knows no barriers. Whether you're working in an office, construction site, or even on the football pitch, poor mental health doesn't discriminate. As a top-level athlete, you are scrutinized endlessly for your performances, your conduct off the pitch, your appearance, and anything that people could use against you. These can contribute to someone experiencing poor mental health symptoms. Even if things look perfect above water, things off the pitch and at home can be much worse. And when we talk about professional athletes, these factors can be heightened. Pressures from family to provide for them financially, issues with relationships, trauma, and many other factors can negatively affect the mental health of these female athletes. People will struggle to sleep, eat, feel restless, start to experience physical pain, and constantly feel on edge. These can affect their performances on the pitch, which can increase negative feedback from outside voices, which then can heighten the volume of your inner critic. And this can lead to isolation, which can lead to far more serious consequences. A study done on 115 elite female footballers in England found 11% of players suffer from mid to high levels of anxiety symptoms, 11% suffered mid to high level symptoms of depression, and a significant 36% showed symptoms of eating disorders. There will be another video where I go over ED in football, but when we look at those numbers alone, these individuals that we watch every weekend also suffer poor mental health. And even when as outsiders we think they are living their best lives, playing the sport that they presumably love. This applies to males and females, but when we look at the women's game, they may have differing reasons for their anxiety and depression. Currently, wages in professional women's football aren't the best, which still sees some players having to take on part-time jobs or side hustles just to live comfortably. Some will pursue higher education to guarantee work beyond their playing career. Injuries suffered could have lasting effects on their performances, as we've discussed prior. And even if some players wish to have children, they may stress whether they can do it during their career, what long-term effects it could have on their ability to get back into the game once they recover. These factors can engulf players at all levels, and so providing the adequate resources for these women, both through clubs, the PFA, and other governing bodies across all levels, can be useful, not only for those playing professional football, but for the women and young girls who do not manage to break into the game professionally. So implementing the same level of treatment and resources into post-career education through seminars and educational talks across countries would be of great help, showing that people it is okay to not feel okay, and being able to discuss issues that would otherwise go ignored, which could negatively affect a person for years beyond their time on the field. Despite the best efforts of players, coaches, and advocates of the women's game, there is still an underlying stigma among the general population regarding the quality and validity of the game compared to the men's game. There are still quote-unquote opinions online from people who believe it is far below the standard of men's football. Even at a higher level with organisers and governing bodies, they lag behind their male counterparts. FIFA are yet to announce the host for the 2027 World Cup, while some FAs are yet to pay their players for their participation at the 2023 World Cup, with the reggae girls still battling over proper treatment and pay from their FA. The World Cup rights were only acquired weeks before the tournament began by broadcasters because FIFA separated the packages for the men's and women's tournaments, causing a dispute between them and broadcasters only weeks before the tournament in Australia and New Zealand. There was also horrible conduct by the Spanish FA, particularly the actions of Luis Rubiales following the Cup triumph. Instead of people talking about how incredible the achievement was with how the Spanish players won their first World Cup, the headlines were around how their former president conducted himself with the players and how their coach and their preparations prior to the tournament were awful. Those players dealt with huge adversities to achieve an incredible feat, but instead their success was marred by misogyny and poor conduct by those in higher positions. Current Ballon d'Or winner Aitana Bonmati has spoken out about how the game is still being treated inadequately despite their success at the World Cup, with venues being changed regularly at the last minute in La Liga, which affects both the players, but particularly the spectators, who may have had their plans changed and may not be able to watch the game now. There are still massive problems regarding the RFEF and their women's sides, but we have seen steps being put into place, and while not perfect, they are a step in the right direction. Other issues such as inadequate facilities for elite and amateur players are still an ongoing problem worldwide. International teams, such as we mentioned with Jamaica, are still dealing with inequality in multiple areas. One problem that still lingers is misogyny. There are some individuals who feel compelled to voice their distaste for the women's game, particularly about female pundits as they, quote, did not play the sport, end quote. Female pundits often must work harder to get into journalist or punditry work, given the stigma from outdated ideologies. Some of the better work has been done by women who are incredibly knowledgeable of the game, regardless of their playing careers. The likes of Alex Scott, Karen Carney, Jill Scott, Laia Cervera Herrero, and Natalie Jedra, to name a few, doing superb work for the game. There's still more work that needs to go into supporting female coaches in acquiring their coaching licenses and getting involved in male setups, with people like Emma Hayes and Sarria Wiegman showing that they are at the top of their game. So, what do we do now? We have seen what the women's game can offer us in terms of entertainment. So how can we reciprocate the uptake in quality? We need to continue to challenge the status quo, ensuring that the game continues to develop at all levels, from your local park to the World Cup final. Keep supporting the women's teams, both through television and going to the games. If we continue to show that we want to see the game, then governing bodies cannot ignore the popularity and will invest more into the women's game, from increasing wages and sponsorship deals, investing in facilities and research for female players, and putting more effort in providing viewers with the best product possible. 20 years ago, female players had to find role models from the likes of Beckham, Henry, Messi, Iniesta, Ronaldo, and Buffon, to name a few. With the growth of the women's game, we have seen Megan Rapinoe, Christine Sinclair, Wendy Renard, Kim Little, and Marta take the stage and capture hearts. Now, young girls have a dearth of role models to emulate on the training ground, whether you want to be the next Henny Hermoso, Aitana Bonmati, Sam Kerr, Lena Oberdorf, Lindsay Horan, Mary Earps, or even Katie McCabe. The idea of your daughter, niece, cousin, or any other girl now dreaming of becoming a professional footballer is a beautiful thing. And nowadays they can be in a position where they can make a good living and make it their job. This is an amazing period for the women's game. Everybody involved in the game can make a huge impact on how it develops over the next few decades. The players and coaches have managed to create an amazing experience for everyone despite these barriers. Its inclusivity appeals to all, which is why it continues to grow in popularity. The women have done so much now to get to where it is. It is time for governing bodies, federations, and us to step up and make it the global spectacle it deserves to be.